Hey everyone, I'm DT10 and today I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new update for the TARDIS Refined mod. Although update is a bit of an understatement, as it overhauls pretty much every major mechanic in this mod, right from growing your first coral plant to piloting a fully functional TARDIS. With that in mind, obviously I'm going to cover as much as I can, but I won't be able to cover all of the features of this update in this video. So I'd highly recommend playing this update for yourself. There is a link to it in the description. It is for Forge or Fabric 1.20.2. So I'm playing on an early build of this update for this video, so a massive thank you to Commander Moose and the rest of the team for sending this over for me to review. However, this does mean that there are going to be some bugs and some things that aren't quite working properly or aren't quite implemented yet, so do bear that in mind when I'm showcasing all of the features. Anyway, there's a lot to cover, so let's get started. So pretty much the only thing that hasn't been changed in this update is actually acquiring your root plant, and as I've covered that in a different video already, which I'll put a link to in the description, I'm not going to cover it again in this video. Instead, we'll just skip to the part where you've already got your root shell like this. And immediately you'll notice it looks a little bit different. There are some roots over the door which you can confirm by right clicking it, and as you can see it says roots cover the entrance. In order to remove these, you just need a simple pair of shears. So you can just right click on this, and as you can see the roots disappear and you're good to head on inside. And we are met with a beautiful cave interior, quite different to the one we saw in the original version of TARDIS Refined. So we need to terraform the TARDIS, and for this you're going to need 8 blocks of copper and 1 block of redstone arranged in a shape just like this, with the block of redstone in the middle like this. And then we need the actual terraformer block itself. However, unlike in the last update, this doesn't actually have a crafting recipe, or at least not a traditional one. As you can see, if I go into JAI, you can't actually craft this thing, and that's because we need one of these, an Astral Manipulator and an amethyst screwdriver. And for now, we're actually going to leave the TARDIS because this is a huge system that needs to be explained in quite a lot of detail. So this is the crafting recipe for the Astral Manipulator. It requires 4 iron ingots, 3 blocks of amethyst, a redstone lamp, and then a redstone torch as well. And then on top of that, you need one of these, an amethyst screwdriver, which has a relatively simple crafting recipe, apart from this blaze rod, which means you do have to go to the nether before you can have a functioning TARDIS. So these 2 blocks aren't just used for making the terraformer, they are absolutely crucial in progressing in the new version of this mod. It's basically a brand new, really hands-on crafting system, and it's a lot of fun to play with. So you can place this Astral Manipulator down in the world like this, just like normal. So as you can see, I'm right-clicking this thing right now, but we're getting no GUI, and that's because this thing crafts using physical blocks that you place down in the world. So let's use the terraformer as an example. So the crafting recipe for a terraformer calls for some stone, some glass panes, a block of emerald, a daylight detector, and then some Zyton blocks. As you can see, this ore can be found underground in the overworld, and according to the wiki, it acts pretty similar to iron ore in terms of the spawn rate. However, personally, I found it a little bit more difficult to find than iron, so mining this thing with an iron pickaxe drops some raw Zyton, as you can see, which can be placed into a furnace and smelted, and if we wait a few seconds, as you can see, we get some Zyton ingots. So one of the blocks we need to make the terraformer is a block of Zyton, which is very simply crafted using 9 Zyton ingots in a crafting table. However, another one of the blocks we need is a Zyton fused iron block. So this can be crafted by combining an iron block with a Zyton ingot in a crafting table, or interestingly, you can place down the block of iron and then right click with a Zyton ingot to turn it into a fused block, which I think is a really cool feature. I also think this is a really unique texture which could be utilized in building. There's also a copper version, as you can see, which is used in some other crafting recipes, and I actually prefer this copper version, but yeah, both look really cool and I could see some building uses for these. Anyway, we're not going to be building for now. We need to terraform our TARDIS. So you need to place these blocks in a specific way, and all of the details can be found on the TARDIS Refined wiki, which I've left a link to in the description. However, I will be going over the block layouts for the main items in this video. We need to start by placing a stone block in each of the 4 corners. It doesn't matter where you do this in the world, by the way, just do it somewhere near your Astral Manipulator and without any other interfering blocks that could get in the way. We then need to place 4 Zyton fused iron blocks in between the gaps like this, with a block of Zyton in the middle. We then then need to place a glass pane on top of each of these Zyton fused blocks with another 4 stone in the corners like this. We're now going to place an emerald block on top of the Zyton block like this. We're then going to do another 4 stone in the corners with some more Zyton fused iron blocks like we did at the bottom, and we're going to finish it off with a daylight detector in this gap right here. So here's where it gets really cool. We're now going to switch over to our amethyst screwdriver that we crafted earlier. So what you need to do is first of all right click this Astral Manipulator, and this works a bit like World Edit in the sense that you make a box or a selection by selecting the 2 opposite corners. So I'm going to select this corner down here by right clicking. I'm going to do the same up here, and that will put a box around our craft like this. Finally, all we need to do is right click the Astral Manipulator again with our amethyst screwdriver, and as you can see, a terraformer pops out and it gets rid of our blocks. This is just such a cool system. I can't imagine the coding that went into this, and it's so unique. I've not seen this in any other Doctor Who mod, and I don't think I've seen this in any other mod. I know it's a little bit Create-esque, I believe the Create mod does something like this, but yeah, it's just such a cool system. And it's a system we'll be using more later on, but for now, we're going to head back inside our TARDIS and use our terraformer. So just like in the last update, this terraformer goes on the redstone block in the middle of the structure like this. However, as you can see, it doesn't actually do anything yet, and that's because we need to confirm by interacting with an amethyst screwdriver. So just right click the terraformer. As you can see, it will get rid of the blocks. We get this really cool flashing effect. You get the nice sound effects and stuff, and we just need to head outside and the terraforming process will begin, and you just need to wait about a minute for this to complete. And while we're waiting, I just thought I'd take this opportunity to say that if you're enjoying this video so far, then please consider subscribing. We are getting really close to 5,000 subscribers now, which has been a goal of mine for a really long time, and I'd really appreciate your help to get there. Anyway, the terraforming process is over, and you'd think we'd have a functioning TARDIS now, but nope, not quite yet. This is your proto TARDIS, and it has this beautiful sort of coral fused TT capsule design. I really like this. However, if you're not a huge fan, then you can right click with the shears to get rid of the coral effect, and it leaves you with a very nice looking TT capsule. So now is a good time to mention this mod does actually have immersive portals compatibility. However, as I'm playing on an early build, there are quite a lot of bugs with this, and so the team recommended that I turn it off for this video. But yeah, in the future there will be a really cool big on the inside effect, and it will be completely seamless going in and out of the TARDIS, just like it was in the original version. But for now, it's a bit of a teleport effect like that. But anyway, as you can see, we are inside the TARDIS, and it's changed once again. Although, correction, this isn't the TARDIS quite yet. As I mentioned, this is our proto TARDIS, and the main thing you'll notice straight away is that there is still no console, and it still looks pretty grimy in here. So at a minimum, there are 2 things you need to do to get your TARDIS going. You need to turn the power on, and you need to create a console unit. So turning on the power requires us to head through these very suspicious looking doors at the back. You get this really cool sort of airlock system, as you can see, some very nice custom sound effects. And then if you head through the doors, as you can see, we're now in the very extensive corridors inside the TARDIS. So in the new update, the corridors are absolutely crucial to pretty much everything to do with the TARDIS. And I'm actually going to go into survival just to showcase this effect right here. As you can see, if we step into the middle, we actually start floating. And you can see in the top left that there are some controls for this. You can go up by pressing space, and you get this really cool hovering effect. And you can descend by pressing left shift. And this is caused by this block at the bottom, a gravity well. So this block only works inside the TARDIS dimension, and it spawns naturally. However, you can actually craft one yourself using the Astral Manipulator. I'll put a picture of the crafting recipe on screen now, or of course you can check the wiki. So at the bottom of this gravity shaft, if we head through these doors, we get this absolutely insane looking room. I mean, all of the builds in this mod are just incredible, but I mean, I was genuinely shocked when I walked in here. The attention to detail and everything is just immaculate. I mean, I could stay in here all day. So in order to power on the TARDIS, we need to open the Eye of Harmony, which can be done by placing 4 Archon pillars on these blocks right here. So there are 2 either side of this sort of central bedrock cross, and then there's one up here on the left and another one up here on the right. And as you may have expected, the Archon pillars are craftable using the Astral Manipulator. So to create the pillars we need to open the Eye of Harmony, you do actually have to place down another Astral Manipulator inside this room somewhere. However, that's not too big of a deal since you can just move the original one you placed, or you can craft another one since it's got a pretty simple crafting recipe. And the reason it needs to be in this room is because you need to actually create the sort of block layout where you want the pillar to go. So to choose any one of these spots to start with, and we need to place down a block of Zyton, 2 polished deep slate walls, and then a Zyton lantern. So this is another custom Zyton block which works exactly the same way to the normal lantern, and so is crafted in a very similar way. We just need a torch and then 8 Zyton nuggets, which can be made using a Zyton ingot. And then you just need to place that on top of the deep slate walls. And I'd just like to comment on how cool this block looks. I mean, all of the Zyton blocks look amazing, but they do resemble the oxidized copper quite a lot, I think. But this block is so unique. I've been wanting a green lantern in Minecraft for ages, and yeah, this just looks so cool. Anyway, once you've done that, we just need to right click the Astral Manipulator, select the area we want to craft, and then right click again. And as you can see, we get one of these pillars, and you get that really cool sound effect and this amazing sort of glowing effect at the top. It is really cool. Anyway, now you need to do is do that another 3 times on all of the other spots. Here we go. I've got the other 2 in place. It's just this one left. I would like to point out, by the way, you may have to move this block around the interior a bit as the range is kind of small and it wasn't reaching some of the other pillars when I had it placed over here. But yeah, as you can see, if we now right click the Astral Manipulator again, we get some really cool lightning effects, and if we look down this hole, you can see the Eye of Harmony. So now we've opened up the Eye of Harmony, we are capable of powering up the TARDIS, and I'd just like to comment on how cool this entire effect is. Again, it's really unique. I love all of the sort of visuals and everything, particularly of this room, but also all of the custom blocks and stuff. And yeah, this Eye of Harmony looks so cool. And by the way, if you hadn't already worked it out, jumping in will kill you. And now I kind of want to do it just for fun. So now that we've got power, you can hear that really cool TARDIS hum. And we're good to head back into the main room, where we can now make a console. So as you may have expected, you can craft a console using the Astral Manipulator. And just like with the pillars that we crafted down in the Eye of Harmony room, you do have to craft this where you want the console to go. And I've realized it's a bit dark in here, and you probably can't see much because of YouTube compression, so I've lit it up a bit. Anyway, the crafting recipe calls for a block of redstone in the middle, surrounded by 4 Zyton fused iron blocks like this, with 4 smooth stone slabs on the top half of the blocks in the gaps like this. We then need to place a stone button on top of each of the Zyton fused blocks, 4 iron trapdoors in the corners like this, and finally a block of glass. I think this is such a cool craft just because of how much it resembles an actual console. And then you just need to right click this thing once again, click one of your corners, click the other corner like this, then click it again, and as you can see, we've got our console. So all you have to do to get started is just interact with this thing basically anywhere, and it turns on and binds to the TARDIS, as you can see, with a really cool lighting and sound effect. And now you get all of the various different labels which tell you what each of the controls do. And for now, we're just going to look for the refueler. Just navigate over to this dial right here which says fuel 0% and right click it, and this thing does actually go up pretty quickly. As you can see, we're already at 4%. And you just need to wait a little while because obviously we do need some fuel before flying the TARDIS. And while we're waiting, there's a few other things we can take a look at, one of which is the console configurator. So obviously we've got this default console, however if you're making a custom interior or you want to change the default interior later down the line, you might want a different console to reflect that, and you can do that by using the console configurator. Once again, we're going to use the Astral Manipulator to craft this thing. This time the recipe calls for 4 Zyton fused copper blocks in each of the corners like this, 4 blocks of amethyst in these gaps right here, and then an observer in the middle. And as you can see, we get a console configurator. Once you've got your console configurator, you need to place it next to the console. However, please be very careful. The orientation needs to be correct. So if I place this down somewhere else, you'll notice that it has a sort of sticking out purple bit on one of the sides that isn't present on any of the other. And this needs to stick out away from the console. So we need to be facing the console basically when we place it. I literally spent ages trying to work out why this wasn't working, and it turns out I just placed it the wrong way. So thank you very much for Ori Titan for helping me out with that one. Anyway, with this console configurator, we can change how the console looks, and there's various different options we can cycle through. I had a look at most of these when I made the original video, but there are a few new ones as you can see. Firstly, we've got this absolutely beautiful model for the 14th and 15th Doctor's interior. I mean, this is just just so cool. The detail is absolutely mental. The little coffee machine, oh, I love it. This might be one of the best consoles I've ever seen in a Minecraft Doctor Who mod. It's just insane. Also, if we grab ourselves a pattern manipulator, which is one of the only things craftable using a crafting table compared to an astral manipulator because it's an item, this is its crafting recipe. It's pretty simple. Then what this allows us to do is if we right click the console configurator, we can change the variant. As far as I'm aware, nothing's really changed with this. The only thing I could find is that there's now a sound effect if you right click and it doesn't have any other console models, which we just heard. It's that little sort of beep sound, and I believe the reason that wasn't present in the last version is because this is the only console that exists that doesn't have any other variants. All of the other consoles which were already present have at least one or two other variants, as you can see. Ooh, I actually think this Skulk version of the Toyota one is new. That looks very, very cool. And you're going to have to bear with me here because I reviewed the first version of this mod about 9 or 10 months ago, so it is sort of slipping my memory. But I don't remember the default console having any other versions, which it now does. We've got this really nice vintage one. We've got a mint one, which is a much similar color scheme to, I guess, what we see in like the third Doctor's kind of era. And we've also got a wood one, which is very similar to the fourth Doctor's secondary console room console. Console room console. Why did that sound so weird? Anyway, it took me so long to work out how to orientate that console configurator properly that we're at 100% fuel. Or I believe we are. It's going to take me a second to find the refueler on this new console. Aha! Right in the middle. Here we go. Yeah, fuel 100%. Okay, that means we're pretty much ready for flight. So I believe I'm right in saying that the handbrake is new in this version. We already had the throttle, however the throttle has been slightly updated, meaning you can now actually control the speed of your flight, a little bit like we saw in the Adventures in Time mod. And then there's also been some updates to flight events. Mainly, I believe the new change is that you don't have to complete the flight event in order for the flight to be successful. However, obviously, if you don't complete the flight event, stuff may still go wrong with your flight. For example, you might land a few blocks off course, or in a worse situation, you might end up crashing the TARDIS completely. To be honest, I don't really know, so I'm just going to give it a go, and we can experience it together for the first time. So if I pull down the throttle, yeah, as you can see, the doors will close, we get the really, really cool sound effects, and I don't really know what those meant. I can't see anything that I have to do at the moment. Oh, is there smoke coming out of this? No, I think that's just coming out of the middle. Okay, I'm hearing a lot of noises. I don't really know what it means. Oh, okay, there we go. That's a symbol. Okay, we're back to normal. That's good. Is that it? Was that a whole flight event? That was a little bit confusing, I'm not going to lie. And then, yeah, as you can see, if we keep right-clicking the throttle, we can pull it down even further and increase the speed of our flight. And what's really, really cool about this is we get this sort of like screen shaking animation. Okay, so I think the general gist of it is that controls, yeah, look, as you can see, controls start to become misaligned. So you sort of get these really cool smoke particles, and then you continue to right-click them until they go from that sort of red to green. I'd also just like to say how cool this time rotor is. That is just such a cool animation. And then I believe if you leave a control misaligned for too long, then it can effectively become not usable, which obviously doesn't matter for these little switches, but for something like this, the Z coordinate, obviously you want to be able to use that. Now I kind of want to see what happens if we just leave the console completely, just for science. Okay, so I've left a few controls to become misaligned. Yeah, okay, we appear to have crashed. Oh dear. Oh my gosh, that's quite a lot of smoke. Yeah, maybe this wasn't such a good idea. So, crashing your TARDIS isn't permanent, and you don't actually have to do anything to fix it. You've just got to wait 10 minutes. And they've also added a bit of a quality of life feature. If you're in creative mode like I am, you can just grab an ice block, and all you have to do is interact with the console. And as you can see, we should be back to normal. I know it's such a little thing, but that ice thing for creative players is just such a good feature. Anyway, I know that was a little bit chaotic. You can find a lot more in-depth tutorials and stuff for flight on the official TARDIS Refined wiki. There is also a new feature, and that is AR glasses, which have a very simple crafting recipe, only requiring 4 sticks, 2 glass panes, and a Zyton ingot. If you wear these glasses while you're in flight, or out of flight, because these things are Very, very stylish. Feel a little bit like Elton John. But yeah, if you wear these things while you're in flight, then it will actually show you where the misaligned controls are. So we may as well demonstrate that. Okay, so as you can see, now that we're in flight with these AR glasses on, we actually get the particle effects that were present in the original flight system. So we used to get these particles in TARDIS Refined version 1, and the whole flight event was you sort of just had to go around and click them. And it's really cool to see these return in some form with these AR glasses. I think it must be a little bit of a bug that they spawn in from the floor as opposed to on the console, but to be fair, it does make them quite a lot easier to see. And while we're here, we may as well actually fly somewhere. So let's set some destination coordinates, and the increment button, which was present in the original version, can now only go up to times 100. And that's because in order to go to times 1000 and 10,000, you've actually got to upgrade your TARDIS, which is done using the new TARDIS XP system. I'm just going to set some random X, Y, and Z coordinates, and we'll just see what happens. I believe I'm right in saying you can't set a destination during flight. You have to set the destination before you take off. What's cool is if you also hover over the computer bank, you can now see a little percentage, and that is actually how far through our flight we are. So as you can see, flight does take quite a long time, at least in the early stages. It does all link to that XP system, which I mentioned a second ago. So as you can see, we're only going about a couple of hundred blocks in both directions. I'm at max throttle, meaning we're burning quite a decent amount of fuel, but we're still only just halfway through the flight. It does mean the TARDIS is a lot more balanced right from the get-go, which is obviously a good thing, but it does certainly make flight a little bit more annoying in the early stages. Anyway, we're about to be done with our flight. As you can see, that's 100%. That's what that little noise indicates, by the way. It means you're at the end of your flight, meaning we can now pull down the throttle. As you can see, we get 62 XP from that flight. So in order to use our XP and access the TARDIS upgrade system, we need to head once again into the infinite corridors system. However, thankfully, we don't have to go very far, as once you're in this main room, you just have to head over to the left, and as you can see, we'll enter the ARS room. And at the moment, our ARS tree is very, very small. So if we right click these little eggs, we can see this massive menu. So as you can see, it says XP 20 out of 100. However, that doesn't mean we've got 20 XP. It basically works on a point system. So for every 100 XP, you gain 1 point. So I've done a few test flights and stuff, meaning in total, I've accumulated 320 XP, meaning I'm 80 XP away from the next point, basically. And as you can see, there's this massive sort of skill tree, effectively, within the TARDIS, and this unlocks various features. So for example, if you head down the architecture route, you can see the chameleon circuit, meaning we can change the exteriors. You can also change the desktop, so we can change the interior. If we go down the defense system, it means you have the option to materialize around an entity, and I believe this includes a player, so you can basically sneak up on your friends and teleport them into your TARDIS. And finally, if we go down the navigation system, there's plenty of stuff we can do. You can create waypoints, you can create a landing pad, which has to be crafted using an Astral Manipulator, and that allows the TARDIS to be summoned. So for example, you could summon it into your base, and then you've got various levels of Explorer. Explorer 1, Explorer 2, Explorer 3, and Explorer 4, which allows interdimensional travel. And this is what I was talking about earlier. This is where you can access your times 1000 increment, and actually a few above this, which I didn't realize. We've got 2500 and then 5000. It doesn't go up to 10,000. I did think that would be a bit ridiculous. And then of course, interdimensional travel is the big one at the end. You can go to both the Nether and the End with the TARDIS. I think this might just be the best way to tackle the TARDIS in any Doctor Who mod I've ever seen. And I sort of want to briefly explain with that statement, because it is a bit of a crazy one. But the issue a lot of Doctor Who mods have is balancing, with obviously the TARDIS being such an overpowered item. Effectively, it lets you travel anywhere in time and space, or at least it does according to the show. But obviously in Minecraft, that's not really ideal, because you don't want to be able to travel to the end straight away, but you also don't want to have to wait ages to get your TARDIS. So some mods compensate for this by making you fight a boss in order to craft the TARDIS, some make you craft other elements in order to unlock certain stuff, which is pretty decent, but I think this is just an amalgamation of all of them, and it is by far the best solution. You get a TARDIS straight away with some pretty decent features, and then the more you use it, the more you can do with it, and I think that's just really, really cool. It doesn't require any sort of skill necessarily. It doesn't require you to fight bosses or craft certain things, meaning you don't have to really grind for it. You just use your TARDIS and have fun, and naturally you'll be able to upgrade more parts of it. It's just a really, really cool system, and I think they've executed it perfectly. And we may as well spend some of these points. I'd like to go into architecture, so I'm going to left click it, press purchase upgrade, and as you can see, we've unlocked these two. And this is where stuff can get expensive. If I want to change the chameleon circuit, it's going to cost me 10, and it's going to cost me 20 for the desktop. So I may as well spend the remaining points unlocking both of these as well. And you may have just seen, by the way, that as you upgrade stuff, the ARS tree actually grows. It's just so cool. I can't get over how amazing this system is. And another really cool quality of life thing is that if you're in creative mode, you don't have to manually unlock all of these. You can just run some commands. So if we run /TARDIS Refined and then go to upgrades and then just press unlock, as you can see, we can literally unlock any of these if we want to. So I'm going to unlock the chameleon circuit first because I want to take a look at some of the new exteriors, and I'm also going to unlock what I'm assuming is the desktop, this thing right here, inside architecture. And that gave me a bit of a jump scare, but our tree is growing once again. This is so cool. I kind of want to unlock all of them just so I can see the full tree. There's another stage and another stage. I seem to be inside of a block. Oh my gosh, yeah, this thing's getting big now. We must be reaching the final levels. In fact, I believe, unless I've missed any, this is the last upgrade. And that is a beautiful custom tree. I wonder if it's the same every time. I'm assuming it would be, but if there's variation within different TARDIS and stuff, that would just be another level. But yeah, even if there's not, this system is just bonkers. In my opinion, it's definitely the best thing about this update. I was really concerned that I wouldn't be able to cover it in this video because I knew it would be quite in-depth, but the fact that it's so intuitive and so easy to understand that I can actually cover it in pretty much its entirety in this video in just a short segment just goes to show quite how well designed it is. Anyway, we've got everything upgraded now, so we can head back into the main console room. So as you can see, if we now go ahead and right click on the computer bank, all of these things are now upgraded. We've got waypoints, which I'm not going to be taking a look at in this video, but they're relatively self-explanatory, and then external shell configuration and desktop. So we'll start with the external shell, and there's been a few new additions. So first up, the default police box has a slightly different texture, but we're not going to be going in depth in that one because it's not a massive change. There's also been a slight update to the factory shell, aka the TT capsule, but we've already seen that in this video. Next up, the new ones. So we have got the lift one, which looks very nice. So we'll take a look at that properly. Yeah, that's a very cool exterior. Very steampunk. It sort of reminds me of the new TARDIS mod in a sense. Next up, we've got hieroglyph, which obviously has sort of ancient Egypt implications and stuff, and this definitely reflects that. I absolutely love this. Very sort of sandstony, really cool. And another really cool detail is that this door is actually sort of, I believe, intended to be like a stone, a bit like a sarcophagus or like the entrance to a tomb, and instead of just opening like normal doors, it sort of goes off to the side, sort of implying that you have to like remove the stone. That is a very cool detail. We've then also got castle, which really reminds me of sort of the Princess Peach castle from the Mushroom Kingdom in Mario, and I love the little window at the back. It's a really nice detail. And last but not least, we've got Pathfinder, and this might be my favorite of the lot. This is just a door, but believe it or not, they've actually made it so it's perfectly flat around the back, and you can actually place blocks all the way behind it and make it look like this is like a proper entrance to a build. I think this is really unique, and I've not really seen it done before, so I'm very excited by the possibilities of this. Anyway, that's all of the new exteriors, and the final thing I'm going to be covering in this video is the new interiors. So if we head over to desktop configuration, there are two new interiors, one of which in particular I'm very excited about. But we'll start with the new Arnett interior, and I just love this animation. It's very cool. So we'll press save and then just head outside. And just as a little bit of a heads up, in the new update it does now take 3 minutes or 180 seconds to change the desktop. However, that wait time can be decreased by using the TARDIS upgrade system, which we took a look at earlier. Anyway, here we are inside the first of the two new interiors, and this one is obviously a custom, and I love it. I mean, it just looks brilliant. I think the new console fits perfectly here, but yeah, I just love the vibe. You sort of come in a bit of an angle. It sort of feels a little bit homely with the plants and the table and stuff, as well as being quite mechanical with all the vents and stuff. Yeah, I think this is a really nice interior. However, there's another one which I'm dying to have a look at, which you may have predicted based on this new console edition and what's been happening in Doctor Who at the moment. But if we head over to the computer bank and go to desktop configuration, we can select this, the refurbished interior. Oh yes. So we'll press save on this one and head outside, and let's head on inside and take a look. Oh, this is such a cool build. Other than being much more detailed and much more intricate, it's actually not too dissimilar to the attempt I had at this TARDIS for my tutorial video. But yeah, this is so cool. I love the addition of the jukebox, even though it doesn't look anything like the jukebox that we actually see inside the TARDIS. It's a nice little detail. And yeah, let's just take a look around. Oh, the front-facing quartz pillars here is absolutely genius. That's a very clever idea. I also really like the use of the double glass with the powdered snow. I've not seen powdered snow used before, but what I'm presuming is that there's like a light source behind the powdered snow. Yeah, so they've put sea lanterns behind the snow, and then because they're transparent blocks, they sort of shine through. That's really clever. I mean, these walls are absolutely mental. The combination of sort of the smooth quartz and the regular quartz, and the blocks created from like 2 blocks of glass, that is a very cool technique. The sea lanterns here look very cool. I went for ochre frog lights, if I remember correctly. I think either works, to be honest. Ochre frog lights have a bit of a yellow tinge to them, but it does kind of go with the yellow on the console. And then you've got all these windy staircases and stuff that lead down into the bottom. Loads and loads of corridor entrances. Anyway, yeah, overall an absolutely incredible build, and the console just looks absolutely amazing here. Anyway, with that, we're pretty much done. That is all of the main features of Update 2 covered. Of course, I'd highly recommend checking this out for yourself. There is a link to download it in the description, as well as a link to the TARDIS Refined wiki if you'd like to know more, and I'd highly recommend joining their community Discord server, which I've left a link to as well if you have any further questions. By the way, at the end of the video, I'd just like to say, for all of you long-term fans, there won't be any videos for some time at the moment, at least for about a month or two, and that's because I'm going into a really important exam period at school, and I've got to prioritize that over making videos. So yeah, don't expect any content until probably around July. But that is going to do it from me. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like or comment, and if you'd like to see more content like this, then please subscribe. But I've been DT10, and I will see you in the next video.